Yeah, so I want to talk about how they got the Wednesday Addams character in Wednesday to work. Because I think, weirdly, on paper, Wednesday Addams doesn't really work in 2022, but the writers were able to not only make a very satisfying character, but I would argue a pretty satisfying show. So let's just get right into it. I will acknowledge the show's not perfect. It does very much play out as a CW show, given the fact that it's Supernatural writers. That's not a surprise. The CGI monsters I found to be absolutely horrible, but again, as long as the story's good, that's not a deal breaker. Some of my favorite shows have bad special effects. Star Trek The Next Generation, Xena Warrior Princess, need I go on? But Wednesday Addams herself, she's a tricky character in 2022 because of all the stuff that she finds pleasurable and that makes her happy, especially the death stuff, especially the torture stuff, especially just the gross stuff. It's a trademark of the Addams Family whole thing, but she's got sort of her own brand of sort of darkness and moroseness, which is why she's such an interesting character to begin with. I will admit, my Wednesday Addams will always be Christina Ricci because that's where I came up. But this Jenna Ortega version I think is absolutely fascinating and is why the show works as well as it does. I want to talk about what the writers had to do in order to fix the Wednesday Addams of it all. So let's just get right into it. Wednesday is dark. She's morose. She's brooding. She's the darkness, the insidiousness, the disgusting. That's what makes her happy, which is an interesting way to work because it almost sort of indicates evil or sort of an antisocial sort of way of working. Very much in the direction of like Dexter or Walter White, sort of an anti-hero, but she's not an anti-hero in the story. She's very much a hero in the story. Part of that happens to be the fact that the show is sort of a mystery and she's trying to solve the murder. She's also a crime novelist. I don't remember if any of that was details that are just new for the show. I feel like they must be, but it's neither here nor there. So I figured there's about 3 ways to get Wednesday Addams to sort of work in 2022, given the fact that most of her stuff is kind of inappropriate and hard to tolerate. Basically, Wednesday's a weirdo. And the best way to set up a character to be the weirdo is to have somebody call them out on being a weirdo, being the more normal character. And they do that in this version in Enid, her roommate, who is the werewolf girl, who is having werewolf problems. Enid is colorful and emotional and cares about things and is happy. She does have a sort of a secondary layer of sort of frustration and inner brooding and sort of darkness, which I really appreciate because that gives a character sort of internal conflicts. She's not just this happy, bright sort of stereotype. She has stuff going on. But that is paired up against Wednesday, who is the darkness, as we know Wednesday. And basically what Enid wants from Wednesday, Wednesday can't give, and vice versa. It's really great. The sort of evolution of their friendship over the course of the show is very interesting because they do find common ground oftentimes, but it's at great strife because they just are so different and semi not compatible. It's super fun. I like it a lot. And so Wednesday's sort of like secondary inner conflict is she sort of doesn't have great access to emotions, which she acknowledges, but also it's not really a want to be liked so much as it's a want to be understood, especially because she's just careening through solving this crime and this murder spree that's happening. And so again, it's not so much I need you to like me, I need people to care about me. It's I need you to respect me, I need you to understand my point of view. I totally get that. That is sort of at odds with the fact that she is inherently antisocial. She lives a world of leave me alone. Yeah. So the second thing is Wednesday doesn't have deep emotions, and that's kind of tricky to deal with because in storytelling, characters need to have emotions because their emotional reactions are going to cause them to act, which is going to be what's driving the plot forward. When you have a character who's not inherently emotional, that's very tricky. It's not great. I think the big save for this is the character Thing, the disembodied hand. Thing may, except for maybe Enid, be the most emotional character in the entire story. It's fascinating. A lot of times Thing is just basically standing in for Wednesday's emotions because Thing has the ability to, just through hand movements, which is hilarious on its own, to think about sort of translate her emotions, but also Thing has sort of an emotional interior life that is its own thing a lot of times. Good use of a secondary character. It helps that Wednesday considers Thing family and kind of like a pet or a collaborator, and so she doesn't have to put on airs. She doesn't have to sort of put on an attitude. She can just be herself. That's very useful. A character in their sort of safe environment. That's super good. She does this a little bit with Enid too, but I think Thing is definitely the sort of the sweet spot for understanding the emotions that is Wednesday Addams. And the third thing is Wednesday Addams says absolutely crazy things constantly, as does any teenage girl, goth or not. It's played for laughs. It's hyperbolic. It's impossible. It's crazy. How could this be true? Wednesday Addams is sort of the most extreme version of that. And I think the writers did a really good job of playing that the way they did, because most of the time the things she says are shocking for shocking's sake, even though she does mean it, even though most characters think she doesn't. This comes to a head during a torture scene where they've kidnapped somebody and they're going to interrogate him, and they keep talking about torture. And then Wednesday actually starts to, get in there and wants to do torture. And everybody backs up and goes, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "I thought we were going to do this." And that's when they all realized, oh my God, she's been serious this whole time. Great little detail, very dark, but sort of entering into, what are we doing here? But I really appreciated it. The other thing is Wednesday had this interesting date with this boy who seemed to know her really well, so much so that he brings her on this date, and instead of this being sort of the stereotypical sweet date that she would find absolutely annoying, he makes her sit down and watch a movie that she would experience as a horrible experience, and after the date is over, she goes, "Thank you, that was a really horrible experience." And that's sort of the towing the line of what are Wednesday's priorities, because she's not a girly girl. She doesn't like normal things, but she does like morose things. She does like sort of disturbing things. Great little detail. But at the end of the day, it's a fun show. The character's just super fun. Wednesday's character, I think, worked. She's not too weird. She's not too dark. She's not too unredeemable. They just kind of found a good happy medium and found ways to sort of swerve when they were getting a little bit too dark, a little bit too real. Yeah, totally cool. It doesn't help that Tim Burton is an absolute master when it comes to color and sort of painting with a beautiful brush when it comes to set design and art department stuff. Here's my best attempt. Not very good. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I hope the show gets the next season because it was super fun, and I think Jenna Ortega and the rest of the cast and crew absolutely just crushed it. Like, share, subscribe. See you next time.